The story of modern Cairo begins long before the city itself ever existed. Thousands of years before the first mosques, palaces, or city walls appeared, this land had already become the center of one of the greatest civilizations the world has ever known. It was here, in the fertile Nile Valley, that people first learned how to harness the natural rhythms of the river to build a stable and highly organized society. At a time when much of humanity was only beginning to settle into permanent communities, the banks of the Nile were already home to thriving cities, monumental temples, advanced agriculture, and a sophisticated system of government. The driving force behind this remarkable development was the Nile itself. Stretching for more than 4,000 miles from the heart of Africa to the Mediterranean Sea, the river shaped nearly every aspect of life in ancient Egypt. Each year, its seasonal floods covered the surrounding land with nutrient-rich silt, transforming a narrow ribbon of desert into one of the most productive agricultural regions in the ancient world. These predictable floods allowed communities to harvest reliable crops, support growing populations, and gradually develop into powerful cities that would eventually unite under a single kingdom. The Nile also served as Egypt's greatest highway. Long before roads connected distant settlements, the river carried people, food, building materials, and trade goods across the country. Massive blocks of limestone and granite floated downstream on wooden barges. Merchants transported grain and handcrafted goods between cities, and government officials traveled along the river to administer territories spread across hundreds of miles. Every major settlement depended on the Nile, making it the lifeline that connected the entire civilization. Long before Cairo became Egypt's capital, the political center of the country was the ancient city of Memphis, located only a short distance from where modern Cairo stands today. Memphis served as the capital of the unified Egyptian kingdom for centuries, becoming the place where pharaohs ruled, government officials managed the affairs of the state, and craftsmen produced goods that were distributed throughout the country. Its strategic location allowed it to control both Upper and Lower Egypt, while also overseeing important trade routes that connected the Nile Valley with neighboring regions. The location of Memphis was far from accidental. It stood at a point where major trade routes converged, linking northern and southern Egypt while providing access to deserts rich in valuable resources such as gold, stone, and minerals. This geographic advantage helped transform Memphis into one of the largest and most influential cities of the ancient world, attracting merchants, artisans, engineers, priests, and officials from across the kingdom. It was during this period that some of history's most recognizable monuments began to take shape. On the western bank of the Nile, vast royal burial grounds gradually emerged, where enormous pyramids were constructed as tombs for Egypt's pharaohs. The most famous of these sites is the Giza Plateau, located just outside modern Cairo. Here stand the Great Pyramid of Khufu, the pyramids of Khafre and Menkaure, and the Great Sphinx, which has watched over the desert for more than 4,500 years. Constructing monuments of this scale required an extraordinary level of planning and organization. Millions of stone blocks had to be quarried, transported across great distances, carefully shaped, and lifted into position with remarkable precision. For many years, it was widely believed that the pyramids were built entirely by slaves, but modern archaeological research paints a very different picture. Much of the workforce consisted of skilled laborers and seasonal workers who came to construction sites during the annual flooding season, when farming temporarily came to a halt. Entire villages were built to house these workers, providing food, medical care, and the support necessary for projects that lasted for decades. Ancient Egypt was remarkable for far more than its monumental architecture. Mathematics, engineering, astronomy, medicine, and writing all reached impressive levels of development along the Nile. Egyptian engineers designed sophisticated irrigation systems that supported agriculture across the valley. Physicians recorded detailed medical knowledge and performed complex treatments, while scribes documented everything from government records to religious texts, leaving behind an extraordinary historical archive that continues to help scholars understand this civilization thousands of years later. Over the centuries, Egypt passed through periods of prosperity and decline as different dynasties rose and fell. Capitals shifted, religious beliefs evolved, and political power changed hands. Yet the region surrounding present-day Cairo never lost its strategic importance. Its location along the Nile ensured that it remained a center of trade, administration, and culture regardless of where the ruling pharaoh chose to establish his court. Eventually, the ancient Egyptian civilization gave way to foreign empires. The Persians conquered the country, followed by Alexander the Great, whose arrival introduced a new chapter in Egyptian history. Egypt later became part of the Roman Empire, and eventually the Byzantine Empire after Rome was divided. Although rulers, languages, and religions continued to change, the Nile Valley remained the heart of Egypt, preserving its importance through every political transformation. It was on this same land, centuries later, that a new city would rise, one destined to become the capital of Egypt and one of the most influential cities in the Middle East. Although people had lived in the area surrounding modern Cairo for thousands of years, the city itself was founded much later. After the Arab conquest of Egypt in the 7th century, new settlements gradually appeared along the eastern bank of the Nile. The first of these was Fustat, which became the capital of Islamic Egypt and served as the country's political and administrative center for generations. As time passed, additional fortified settlements were established nearby, each reflecting the ambitions of its rulers and the growing importance of the region. Everything changed in the year 969, when the Fatimid Caliphate expanded into Egypt from North Africa. Rather than simply occupying the existing capital, the Fatimids decided to build an entirely new city that would serve as the seat of their empire. This new capital was designed to reflect the strength, wealth, and authority of the dynasty, while providing a secure residence for the caliph and his court. The city was named Al-Qahira, a name that translates as the victorious, and over the centuries it evolved into the Cairo we know today. The earliest version of Cairo was very different from the enormous metropolis that exists now. It was a carefully planned royal city surrounded by defensive walls, with palaces, government buildings, military barracks, and magnificent mosques occupying much of its interior. Access to the city was originally limited, as it was intended primarily for the ruling elite, government officials, and soldiers. Ordinary merchants, craftsmen, and laborers continued living in the neighboring settlements that had already developed around Fustat. That arrangement did not last for long. As trade expanded and the city's population increased, residential neighborhoods began to spread beyond the original walls. Markets grew larger, workshops multiplied, and new streets connected the older settlements with the expanding capital. What had once been separate communities gradually merged into a single urban center that continued growing in every direction. Cairo's location played a decisive role in its rapid success. Positioned between Africa, the Mediterranean, and the Middle East, the city became one of the most important crossroads of international trade. Caravans carrying gold, spices, textiles, incense, ivory, and precious stones arrived from distant regions, while merchants from across the Islamic world gathered in its marketplaces. The city's wealth grew alongside its commercial influence, making Cairo one of the most prosperous cities of the medieval world. Trade was only one part of the city's growing importance. Cairo also became a center of learning and scholarship. Shortly after the city's founding, construction began on Azhar Mosque, which would eventually become one of the oldest continuously operating universities in the world. For more than 1,000 years, students from across Africa, Asia, and the Middle East have traveled here to study Islamic theology, law, philosophy, mathematics, astronomy, and many other fields of knowledge. Even today, Al-Azhar remains one of the most respected educational and religious institutions in the Islamic world. As the city expanded, its architecture developed in ways that reflected both practical needs and artistic ambition. Narrow streets provided shade from the intense Egyptian sun. Thick stone walls helped keep buildings cool during the hottest months, and many homes were built around private courtyards that improved air circulation while offering families a quiet space away from the busy streets. Public baths, fountains, caravanserais, schools, and mosques became essential parts of daily urban life, creating neighborhoods that were both functional and vibrant. One of the most influential periods in Cairo's history began during the rule of the Mamluks in the 13th century. Under their leadership, the city experienced extraordinary economic and cultural growth. Wealth generated through international trade funded ambitious construction projects, leading to the creation of countless mosques, madrasas, mausoleums, and public buildings. Many of the architectural masterpieces that define Cairo's historic skyline today were built during this remarkable era, giving the city much of the character that continues to attract visitors from around the world. Later, Cairo became part of the Ottoman Empire, yet its importance never diminished. The city remained one of the region's leading commercial centers, welcoming merchants, scholars, diplomats, and travelers from every direction. Craftsmen continued producing goods renowned throughout the Mediterranean, while the population steadily increased as new neighborhoods expanded beyond the historic core. A new chapter began during the 19th century, when Egypt entered a period of modernization under Muhammad Ali and his successors. Wide boulevards, railroads, government ministries, modern schools, and new residential districts transformed parts of the city. European architectural influences appeared alongside centuries-old Islamic landmarks, creating an urban landscape where different historical periods existed side by side rather than replacing one another. Today, walking through Cairo feels like moving through a living timeline. A single street may lead from medieval gates to Ottoman mosques, from 19th century buildings to modern office towers, all within the span of a few minutes. Every generation has added another layer to the city without completely erasing what came before. That remarkable continuity is one of Cairo's defining qualities, allowing visitors to experience more than 1,000 years of uninterrupted urban history in a place that continues to grow while remaining deeply connected to its past. Over the course of more than 1,000 years, Cairo evolved alongside every major chapter of Egyptian history. Each ruling dynasty left its mark on the city, adding new neighborhoods, architectural styles, and cultural traditions without completely replacing what had come before. The result is a city where every era remains visible, creating an urban landscape that tells its story one generation at a time. Following the Fatimid period, Cairo entered a new era under the leadership of Salah ad-Din, known in the West as Saladin. One of his greatest achievements was the construction of the Citadel of Cairo, a massive fortress built on elevated ground overlooking the city. Designed to protect the capital from invasion, the citadel soon became the political heart of Egypt. For nearly 7 centuries, it served as the residence of sultans and governors, the headquarters of military commanders, and the center from which the country was governed. As the citadel expanded, it developed into a self-contained city within the city. Palaces, administrative buildings, mosques, military barracks, warehouses, and gardens were constructed inside its walls, while its commanding position provided sweeping views across Cairo and the Nile Valley. Even today, visitors standing atop the fortress can appreciate the extraordinary scale of the modern metropolis that has gradually surrounded this historic stronghold. One of Cairo's greatest periods of prosperity came during the rule of the Mamluks, who transformed the city into one of the most important capitals of the Islamic world. International trade flourished as merchants traveling between Europe, Asia, and Africa passed through Egypt, bringing wealth that financed an extraordinary wave of construction. During this period, countless mosques, schools, hospitals, fountains, and public buildings were erected, many of which continue to define Cairo's historic skyline today. Craftsmanship also reached remarkable levels of sophistication during the Mamluk era. Entire neighborhoods specialized in individual trades, allowing artisans to perfect their skills over generations. Jewelers, blacksmiths, woodcarvers, leatherworkers, textile producers, and metal craftsmen filled the city's markets with goods that became famous throughout the region. This tradition of neighborhood specialization survived for centuries, and even today many districts remain closely associated with particular crafts and industries. In the early 16th century, Egypt became part of the Ottoman Empire. Although political authority shifted to Istanbul, Cairo retained its importance as one of the empire's largest and most influential cities. Trade continued to expand, scholars and religious leaders gathered in its mosques and schools, and the city's population steadily increased. Ottoman rulers contributed new architectural landmarks while preserving much of the urban fabric inherited from earlier generations, adding another layer to Cairo's already rich architectural heritage. The 19th century marked the beginning of profound transformation under Muhammad Ali, who is widely regarded as the founder of modern Egypt. Determined to strengthen the country politically, economically, and militarily, he launched sweeping reforms that reshaped both Egypt and its capital. Factories were established, roads were improved, schools were opened, and government institutions were modernized. Cairo began expanding beyond its medieval boundaries, preparing for a new era of rapid growth. Later in the century, European architectural influences became increasingly visible throughout the city. Broad boulevards, elegant public squares, theaters, government buildings, luxury hotels, and residential districts were constructed according to modern urban planning principles. These new neighborhoods introduced a very different architectural style, while existing alongside Cairo's older Islamic quarters rather than replacing them. The opening of the Suez Canal in 1869 dramatically increased Egypt's strategic importance, placing the country at the center of global maritime trade. As commerce expanded, Cairo became an even more significant political and economic capital. During the 20th century, its population grew at an extraordinary pace as people from across Egypt moved to the city in search of education, employment, and new opportunities. New residential districts spread outward in every direction, universities expanded, transportation networks developed, and industries continued to grow. Rapid urbanization also brought new challenges. Housing shortages, traffic congestion, infrastructure demands, and public services all had to keep pace with one of the fastest-growing cities in the world. Despite these pressures, Cairo continued expanding while preserving much of its historic character. Ancient neighborhoods remained active communities rather than open-air museums, allowing centuries-old streets to continue serving the daily needs of modern residents. Today, Cairo's history can be read directly through its architecture. Within the span of a single afternoon, visitors can walk past medieval city gates, magnificent Mamluk mosques, Ottoman monuments, elegant 19th century boulevards, and contemporary skyscrapers that continue to reshape the skyline. Every era has contributed another chapter to the city's story without erasing the ones that came before. Perhaps that is what makes Cairo so remarkable. Rather than preserving its history behind museum walls, the city continues to live within it. Ancient streets remain part of everyday life. Historic buildings still serve their original purposes, and neighborhoods that were established centuries ago continue to welcome new generations. Cairo has never stopped growing, yet it has never truly left its past behind, allowing more than 1,000 years of history to remain an active part of the modern city. The moment you arrive in modern Cairo, it becomes clear that no photograph or travel documentary can fully prepare you for the scale of the city. Cairo does not gradually reveal itself over the course of several days. Instead, it immediately surrounds you with movement, sound, and an endless stream of activity. Even the drive from the airport offers a glimpse of sprawling residential districts, multi-lane highways packed with traffic, construction projects stretching toward the horizon, and neighborhoods that seem to continue without end. The city feels almost limitless, with one district blending into the next as old neighborhoods give way to modern developments and new apartment buildings continue rising across the skyline. Greater Cairo is now home to well over 20 million people, making it one of the largest urban areas anywhere in the world. Every morning, millions of residents leave their homes for work, schools, universities, government offices, hospitals, factories, and businesses spread throughout the metropolitan area. Long before sunrise, streets begin filling with cars, buses, motorcycles, and pedestrians, while neighborhood bakeries, cafes, and markets prepare for another busy day in a city that rarely slows down. One of the first things visitors notice is the constant movement. Traffic flows almost continuously through the city's streets. Major intersections remain busy throughout the day, and the sounds of engines, conversations, and street vendors create a soundtrack that quickly becomes part of the Cairo experience. At first, the pace may seem overwhelming, but after spending time here, it becomes apparent that the apparent chaos follows its own rhythm. Local residents move confidently through crowded streets, crossing busy roads with remarkable ease and navigating the city in ways that seem effortless after years of experience. Another striking feature of Cairo is its vertical growth. Throughout much of the city, apartment buildings rise 10, 15, or even 20 stories above the streets below. Many structures appear unfinished at first glance, with exposed concrete columns extending from the rooftops. In reality, this is often intentional, allowing owners to add additional floors in the future as families grow or financial circumstances change. What may seem unusual to first-time visitors has become a familiar and practical feature of Cairo's urban landscape. Despite its enormous size, Cairo rarely feels anonymous. Every neighborhood develops its own identity, supported by countless family-owned businesses, local cafes, neighborhood bakeries, repair shops, and small grocery stores where customers are greeted by name. Shop owners know many of their regular customers personally. Neighbors stop to chat on the sidewalk, and everyday routines create strong community ties that remain surprisingly resilient within such a massive city. One of the most distinctive aspects of daily life is how much of it takes place outdoors. Streets are not simply routes for getting from one place to another. They function as extensions of people's homes and neighborhoods. Merchants display their goods outside their shops. Cafe tables spill onto sidewalks. Children play near apartment buildings. Elderly residents gather to talk over tea, and friends stop for conversations that often last much longer than originally planned. Public space remains an active part of daily life rather than something people simply pass through. Modern Cairo continues to expand at an extraordinary pace. New residential communities, business districts, shopping centers, universities, and office parks are appearing on the eastern and western edges of the metropolitan area, particularly in developments such as New Cairo and the new administrative capital. These projects are designed to accommodate Egypt's growing population while creating additional economic opportunities for future generations. At the same time, older neighborhoods continue functioning much as they have for decades, creating a fascinating balance between rapid modernization and deeply rooted traditions. Another element that shapes the atmosphere of the city is sound. Several times each day, the call to prayer rises from hundreds of mosques across Cairo almost simultaneously. For a few moments, the familiar sounds of traffic and conversation seem to blend with voices echoing across rooftops and neighborhoods. Whether someone is religious or not, this remains one of the defining rhythms of daily life and serves as a reminder of the important role faith continues to play within Egyptian society. Visitors are often surprised by how naturally tourism blends into ordinary life. Although millions of travelers visit Cairo every year, the city has never been redesigned solely for their benefit. A short walk away from the most famous attractions quickly reveals schools dismissing students, mechanics repairing cars, office workers stopping for lunch, families shopping for groceries, and neighborhood bakeries selling fresh bread to regular customers. Daily life continues almost entirely independent of the tourist experience, allowing visitors who venture beyond the main landmarks to discover a much more authentic side of the Egyptian capital. Before long, it becomes clear that Cairo cannot be understood through its monuments alone. It is a living city that continues to grow, evolve, and reinvent itself while remaining deeply connected to thousands of years of history. The pyramids may introduce visitors to Egypt's past, but the streets of modern Cairo reveal the country as it exists today, shaped not only by its extraordinary heritage, but by the millions of people who create its story every single day. Understanding modern Cairo requires much more than visiting the pyramids or walking through the historic center, because Egypt's capital is not a single, uniform city. It is a vast collection of neighborhoods, each with its own history, architecture, atmosphere, and pace of life. Some districts have existed for more than 1,000 years, while others have been built only within the last few decades. Yet together they form the Cairo that millions of people call home today. At the heart of the city lies Islamic Cairo, the oldest part of the capital and one of the world's greatest collections of medieval Islamic architecture. Its narrow streets wind through neighborhoods filled with centuries-old mosques, schools, marketplaces, fountains, and historic homes that have survived generation after generation. Walking through these streets reveals a city whose layout has changed remarkably little over hundreds of years. Narrow alleyways suddenly open into lively squares. Workshops continue operating inside buildings that have stood for centuries, and the sounds of everyday life blend naturally with the presence of extraordinary historical landmarks. Not far away lies Coptic Cairo, a district that tells a very different chapter of Egypt's history. Long before Islam became the country's dominant religion, Egypt was one of the most important centers of early Christianity. This neighborhood preserves that heritage through its ancient churches, monasteries, and religious sites, many of which continue serving active congregations today. The district offers a quieter atmosphere than the bustling markets nearby, while reminding visitors that Cairo's identity has always been shaped by multiple cultures and faiths existing side by side. A completely different experience awaits in Zamalek, an island neighborhood located in the middle of the Nile. Known for its tree-lined streets, elegant apartment buildings, embassies, art galleries, and cultural institutions, Zamalek has become one of Cairo's most desirable residential districts. Sidewalk cafes, bookstores, theaters, and restaurants create a relaxed atmosphere that attracts both residents and visitors looking for a slower pace within the middle of one of the world's largest cities. The abundance of green spaces and the proximity to the river give this neighborhood a character unlike almost anywhere else in Cairo. To the northeast lies Heliopolis, one of the city's most distinctive planned communities. Originally developed in the early 20th century, the district combines broad avenues, spacious public squares, and architecture that reflects both European and Middle Eastern influences. Over time, Heliopolis has grown into one of Cairo's major residential and commercial centers, home to universities, shopping districts, businesses, and government offices. Its wide streets and organized layout stand in noticeable contrast to the winding alleys of the historic city. In recent decades, New Cairo has become one of Egypt's most ambitious urban development projects. Built on the eastern edge of the metropolitan area, this rapidly expanding district was designed to accommodate the city's growing population while providing modern infrastructure, business centers, universities, international schools, and contemporary residential communities. Wide boulevards, landscaped neighborhoods, and newly constructed office complexes give the area a distinctly modern appearance, representing the future direction of Cairo's continued growth. Further south, the neighborhood of Mahdi offers yet another side of the capital. With its quiet streets, mature trees, and lower density development, it has long been one of Cairo's most comfortable residential areas. Many diplomats, international professionals, and expatriate families have chosen to live here, but Mahdi has managed to retain the atmosphere of a close-knit community where local cafes, neighborhood shops, and parks remain an important part of daily life. Beyond these well-known districts lie countless residential neighborhoods that rarely appear in travel guides, but represent the everyday reality of most Cairo residents. These are the places where children walk to school each morning. Local bakeries prepare fresh bread before sunrise. Family-owned businesses serve generations of loyal customers, and neighbors gather outside their homes after sunset to share conversations that often continue late into the evening. It is within these ordinary neighborhoods that visitors begin to understand the true character of the city beyond its famous landmarks. One of Cairo's defining characteristics is that it never stops expanding. New housing developments, transportation networks, commercial districts, and public infrastructure continue extending farther into the surrounding desert every year. Entire communities emerge where empty land existed only a short time earlier, reflecting both Egypt's growing population and its ongoing efforts to build for the future. The city remains in a constant state of transformation while preserving neighborhoods whose origins stretch back hundreds of years. Despite the enormous size of the metropolitan area, its different districts remain deeply connected. Millions of people travel across the city every day for work, education, shopping, and family visits. Long commutes are simply part of daily life, and moving between neighborhoods has become routine for residents who have learned to navigate one of the largest urban regions on the planet. Perhaps that is what makes Cairo so fascinating. Within a single day, it is possible to walk through medieval streets that have changed little for centuries, enjoy lunch in a modern business district, spend the afternoon in a leafy riverside neighborhood, and end the evening overlooking the Nile beneath a skyline that continues to evolve. Every district reveals a different side of the city, making it clear that Cairo is not defined by any single place, but by the remarkable diversity of the communities that together form one of the world's most extraordinary capitals. After exploring Cairo's many neighborhoods, it becomes much easier to understand that the city's greatest strength is not simply its monuments or its long history, but the people who bring it to life every single day. More than 20 million residents create the rhythm of the Egyptian capital, preserving traditions that have existed for generations while embracing the opportunities of a rapidly changing modern world. Their routines, family values, and daily interactions shape the atmosphere that visitors remember long after they leave the city. For most Cairo residents, the day begins early. Before the morning sun has fully risen above the skyline, bakeries are already filling the streets with the aroma of fresh bread. Neighborhood markets begin arranging their produce. Cafes prepare their first cups of tea and coffee, and millions of people make their way to work or school. Because of the city's enormous size, many residents spend a considerable amount of time commuting each day, making the early morning hours some of the busiest in the capital. The working population reflects the remarkable diversity of Cairo itself. Some people work in government offices, universities, hospitals, and schools, while others are employed in finance, technology, manufacturing, tourism, or construction. At the same time, countless family-owned businesses continue to operate throughout the city. Small workshops repair furniture, produce jewelry, tailor clothing, restore antique objects, and manufacture handcrafted goods using skills that have often been passed from one generation to the next. In many neighborhoods, family businesses remain an important part of the local economy and continue traditions that stretch back for decades or even centuries. Family occupies a central place in Egyptian society, and that is especially visible in Cairo. Relationships between parents, children, grandparents, aunts, uncles, and cousins remain exceptionally close, with relatives often seeing each other several times each week. It is common for multiple generations to live near one another, allowing grandparents to help care for children while families gather regularly for meals, celebrations, and important occasions. These strong family connections continue to influence everyday life regardless of age, education, or profession. Hospitality is another defining characteristic of Cairo's culture. Welcoming guests into one's home is considered a meaningful gesture, and visitors are almost always offered tea, coffee, fresh juice, or something to eat soon after arriving. Even brief visits often become much longer than expected as conversations naturally continue over drinks and homemade food. This tradition extends beyond private homes and can also be felt in neighborhood cafes, small businesses, and local markets, where friendly conversation is often just as important as the transaction itself. Religion continues to play an important role in the lives of many Cairo residents. Daily prayers, religious holidays, charitable work, and family traditions remain closely connected to everyday routines. Throughout the city, mosques serve not only as places of worship, but also as important community centers where neighbors gather, support one another, and participate in local events. Faith remains deeply woven into daily life without separating itself from the ordinary routines of work, education, and family responsibilities. At the same time, Cairo is home to one of the youngest populations in the region. Students attend modern universities, entrepreneurs launch technology startups, engineers develop new infrastructure projects, and professionals work for international companies connected to the global economy. Younger generations are active on social media, follow international trends in fashion, music, and entertainment, and increasingly shape the future of Egyptian society while continuing to value the traditions they inherited from their families. Education remains one of the city's greatest priorities. Cairo is home to many of Egypt's leading universities, research institutions, and specialized schools, attracting students from across the country and throughout the Arab world. Alongside historic institutions such as Al-Azhar University, modern campuses educate future doctors, engineers, scientists, architects, business leaders, and technology specialists who contribute to Egypt's continued development. As the workday comes to an end, the city enters another stage of its daily rhythm. Rather than returning home and staying indoors, many residents head outside to spend time with family or friends. Parks, cafes, public squares, shopping districts, and the Nile Corniche gradually fill with people enjoying the cooler evening temperatures. Children play outside, families stroll through neighborhood streets, and restaurants begin welcoming their busiest hours of the day. Conversation occupies an especially important place in everyday life. Throughout Cairo, it is common to see neighbors standing together outside apartment buildings, friends gathering at sidewalk cafes, elderly men discussing current events over tea, and families lingering after dinner simply to enjoy each other's company. Social interaction remains an essential part of daily life, giving the city a sense of warmth and community that visitors often notice almost immediately. Despite the size of the capital and the rapid pace of its growth, many Cairo residents maintain a strong connection to their immediate neighborhoods. They know the owners of local grocery stores, buy bread from the same bakery every morning, visit familiar cafes, and recognize the people they pass on their streets each day. These everyday relationships create a sense of belonging that helps make one of the world's largest cities feel surprisingly personal. It is through these ordinary routines that the true character of Cairo becomes visible. Beyond the famous monuments, museums, and historic landmarks lies a city defined by its people, their families, their traditions, and their determination to balance centuries of cultural heritage with the realities of modern urban life. They are the reason Cairo continues to evolve while remaining unmistakably connected to the history that surrounds it. If there is one place where Cairo's character reveals itself most clearly, it is in its markets. For more than 1,000 years, trade has been woven into the city's identity, shaping not only its economy, but also its social life. Although modern shopping malls, supermarkets, and international retail brands have become part of the urban landscape, traditional markets continue to thrive, serving as places where people gather, exchange ideas, maintain relationships, and experience the city at its most authentic. The best known of these markets is Khan el-Khalili, a place whose history stretches back to the 14th century. Over the course of hundreds of years, it has witnessed the rise and fall of dynasties, welcomed merchants from across continents, and remained one of Cairo's busiest commercial centers. Rather than functioning as a single marketplace, Khan el-Khalili is an entire network of narrow streets, hidden passageways, and small squares filled with shops, workshops, cafes, and family businesses that have operated here for generations. Walking through the market is an experience that rewards curiosity. Every turn reveals something different, whether it is a craftsman carefully engraving brass by hand, a jeweler shaping silver into intricate designs, or a merchant arranging colorful spices outside a tiny storefront. Lanterns hang overhead, shelves overflow with handmade ceramics, woven textiles, leather goods, carved wood, perfumes, and traditional musical instruments, while the sounds of conversation and craftsmanship blend into an atmosphere that has changed surprisingly little over the centuries. Many of the workshops inside Khan el-Khalili remain family businesses where skills are passed from parents to children across multiple generations. A craftsman who works with copper today may be continuing techniques learned from a father, grandfather, and great-grandfather who all worked in the very same neighborhood. This continuity has allowed traditional Egyptian craftsmanship to survive despite rapid modernization, preserving techniques that might otherwise have disappeared long ago. Shopping in Cairo has always involved much more than simply purchasing goods. Conversation plays an essential role in the experience, and merchants often take time to welcome visitors, explain how products are made, discuss the history behind certain items, or simply ask where their customers have traveled from. These exchanges are not viewed as interruptions to business, but as an important part of building trust and maintaining relationships that often extend well beyond a single transaction. Beyond the famous tourist markets, nearly every neighborhood throughout Cairo has its own local marketplace where residents buy fresh vegetables, fruit, meat, fish, bread, herbs, and spices. These neighborhood markets begin operating early each morning as farmers from surrounding regions deliver freshly harvested produce to the city. By midday, the narrow aisles are filled with shoppers carefully selecting ingredients, greeting familiar vendors, and discussing the quality of seasonal products before making their purchases. One of the most memorable aspects of these markets is the extraordinary variety of spices. Long before reaching the stalls themselves, visitors are greeted by the rich aromas of cumin, coriander, cinnamon, cardamom, turmeric, mint, cloves, and countless regional spice blends that form the foundation of Egyptian cooking. Many vendors prepare their own mixtures using recipes that have remained within their families for generations, creating flavors that cannot easily be found anywhere else. Fresh produce occupies another important place in Cairo's market culture. Thanks to the fertile Nile Valley and Egypt's warm climate, market stalls display an impressive variety of fruits and vegetables throughout the year. Dates, pomegranates, mangoes, grapes, figs, citrus fruits, tomatoes, eggplants, cucumbers, and fresh herbs create colorful displays that attract customers from every part of the neighborhood. For many Cairo residents, shopping at the market is not simply about finding the freshest ingredients, but also about maintaining long-standing relationships with vendors they have known for years. Although modern supermarkets and shopping centers have become increasingly common across the city, traditional markets continue to hold a special place in everyday life. Many residents still prefer buying bread from the neighborhood bakery, vegetables from a trusted produce seller, and spices from merchants whose families have specialized in the trade for generations. These familiar routines help preserve a sense of community that remains remarkably strong despite Cairo's enormous size. A visit to one of Cairo's markets offers far more than an opportunity to shop. It provides a window into the daily rhythm of the city, where local residents and visitors, experienced craftsmen and young entrepreneurs, long-established traditions, and modern influences all come together in a shared public space. Few places capture the energy of Cairo more completely than its markets, where the city's past and present continue to meet every single day. For centuries, Cairo has been one of the great commercial centers of the Middle East, connecting cultures, goods, and people from across 3 continents. That role has never truly disappeared. Even today, the city's markets remain living institutions rather than historical attractions, continuing a tradition of commerce that has shaped Cairo for more than 1,000 years and offering one of the most authentic ways to experience the spirit of Egypt's remarkable capital. After spending time in Cairo's markets, it becomes clear that understanding the city also means understanding its food. Egyptian cuisine reflects centuries of tradition, family life, and local culture, with recipes that have been passed down through generations and continue to shape everyday life across the country. Many of the dishes served in Cairo today have existed in one form or another for hundreds of years, relying on simple ingredients that are prepared with remarkable care and attention. Rather than focusing on elaborate presentation, Egyptian cooking celebrates familiar flavors, fresh ingredients, and meals that bring people together around the same table. The day in Cairo begins early, and so do its bakeries and cafes. Before the morning rush reaches its peak, neighborhood bakeries are already producing fresh loaves of traditional Egyptian bread, while small cafes prepare tea and coffee for their first customers. Many residents stop at the same places every morning, exchanging greetings with familiar faces before heading to work. These routines become part of everyday life, allowing neighborhood cafes and bakeries to serve as gathering places where people meet as naturally as they shop for breakfast. One of the most traditional breakfast dishes is full medams, a meal that has been enjoyed in Egypt for centuries. Slow-cooked fava beans are seasoned with olive oil, garlic, lemon juice, and aromatic spices before being served with fresh vegetables and warm bread. Although its ingredients are simple, the dish remains one of the country's most beloved comfort foods and continues to appear on breakfast tables in homes, cafes, and restaurants throughout Cairo. Another favorite is ta'amiyya, Egypt's version of falafel. Unlike the falafel commonly found elsewhere in the Middle East, which is usually made from chickpeas, the Egyptian recipe traditionally uses crushed fava beans blended with fresh herbs, onions, garlic, and spices. The result is a crisp exterior surrounding a bright green interior that has become one of the defining flavors of Egyptian street food. If there is one dish that many Egyptians consider the national meal, it is koshari. At first glance, the combination may seem unusual. Rice, pasta, lentils, chickpeas, crispy fried onions, and a rich tomato sauce are layered together into a single bowl, often finished with garlic vinegar and spicy chili sauce. Despite its humble ingredients, koshari has become one of Cairo's most recognizable dishes, enjoyed by people from every background and served everywhere from small neighborhood eateries to restaurants dedicated entirely to perfecting this single recipe. Fresh bread accompanies nearly every meal. Throughout Cairo, Bakeries work continuously to produce warm flatbreads that are used not only as food, but also as a practical way of sharing dishes around the table. Early each morning, long lines often form outside neighborhood bakeries as residents pick up bread that will accompany breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The aroma of freshly baked bread drifting through the streets becomes one of the city's most familiar daily experiences. Grilled meats also play an important role in Egyptian cuisine. Restaurants throughout Cairo prepare kebabs, kofta, grilled chicken, and lamb over open charcoal grills, seasoning the meat with regional spice blends before serving it alongside rice, vegetables, salads, and fresh bread. These restaurants become especially busy during the evening as families and groups of friends gather to enjoy dinner together after the workday has ended. No discussion of Egyptian food would be complete without mentioning its desserts. Bakery windows display an impressive variety of pastries made with honey, pistachios, almonds, walnuts, sesame seeds, and delicate layers of dough soaked in sweet syrup. Many recipes have remained virtually unchanged for generations, becoming an essential part of family celebrations and religious holidays. During festive seasons, pastry shops work around the clock to meet the increased demand as families purchase traditional sweets to share with relatives and guests. Tea occupies a special place in daily life across Cairo. Although coffee is widely available and deeply appreciated, black tea remains the beverage most commonly served throughout the city. Small glasses of hot tea appear on tables in cafes, workshops, offices, markets, and homes, often accompanying long conversations between friends, neighbors, or business partners. Offering tea is considered a simple gesture of hospitality, making it an everyday symbol of Egyptian warmth and generosity. Dinner is rarely viewed as simply another meal. For many families, it becomes an opportunity to slow down, gather around the table, and spend time together after a busy day. Large platters are often placed in the center so everyone can share a variety of dishes while conversations continue well into the evening. The meal itself becomes only one part of a much larger social tradition centered on family, friendship, and community. Perhaps that is what makes Egyptian cuisine so memorable. It is not defined by extravagance or complexity, but by its ability to preserve centuries of tradition through everyday meals shared among family and friends. Visitors often leave Cairo remembering far more than the city's famous landmarks. They remember the aroma of fresh bread drifting from neighborhood bakeries, the rich flavors of spices filling local markets, glasses of hot tea shared during long conversations, and simple dishes that reveal the heart of Egyptian life more clearly than any monument ever could. It is impossible to talk about Cairo without returning once again to the Nile, because without this river, the city simply would not exist. Throughout every stage of Egypt's history, rulers have changed, kingdoms have risen and fallen, and the city itself has expanded far beyond its original boundaries. Yet the Nile has remained the constant force shaping life along its banks. Even today, the river continues to define Cairo in ways that go far beyond geography, serving as the city's lifeline and one of its most recognizable landmarks. Long before sunrise, activity begins on the water. Fishing boats head out onto the river. Ferries transport passengers between different parts of the city. Sightseeing boats prepare for another day of visitors, and crews begin maintaining vessels that operate throughout the metropolitan area. Along the riverbanks, joggers, cyclists, and early morning walkers take advantage of the cooler temperatures before the city reaches the heat of the day. For many residents, spending time near the Nile is part of their daily routine rather than a special occasion. For thousands of years, the Nile determined not only where people lived, but also how they survived. Its annual floods once deposited rich layers of fertile soil across the surrounding land, making agriculture possible in a country where most of the landscape is covered by desert. Although modern engineering has transformed the way Egypt manages its water resources, the river remains the country's primary source of fresh water, supporting agriculture, industry, and the daily needs of more than 100 million people. The Nile also influences Cairo's climate. During the hottest months of the year, temperatures near the river are often noticeably more comfortable than those deeper inside the city. As a result, the waterfront has become one of Cairo's favorite gathering places, especially during the evening when families, couples, and groups of friends head toward the river to enjoy cooler air after a long day. The Corniche, Cairo's famous riverside boulevard, stretches for miles along the Nile and serves as one of the city's most popular public spaces. Throughout the day, people walk along its sidewalks, relax in riverside cafes, or simply pause to watch the steady flow of boats moving through the water. Hotels, restaurants, parks, and public gathering areas line much of the waterfront, making the river an important social destination as well as a geographical landmark. One of the most enjoyable ways to experience Cairo is from the water itself. Small wooden boats, locally known as feluccas, continue to sail the Nile much as they have for centuries, using nothing more than the wind to move gracefully across the river. Alongside them, modern sightseeing boats and dinner cruises offer a completely different perspective of the city, allowing passengers to watch Cairo's skyline unfold from the middle of the water. Looking toward the riverbanks, it becomes clear how dramatically the city has evolved, with historic districts, modern hotels, office towers, and residential neighborhoods all sharing the same shoreline. As evening approaches, larger riverboats become increasingly active. Many operate as floating restaurants where families celebrate birthdays, couples enjoy dinner, and groups of friends spend hours listening to live music while drifting along the Nile. As darkness falls, the lights of Cairo begin reflecting across the water, transforming the river into one of the most beautiful parts of the city after sunset. The Nile remains just as essential to Egypt today as it was thousands of years ago. It supplies drinking water, supports agriculture across the country, generates hydroelectric power, and sustains communities from southern Egypt all the way to the Mediterranean coast. Modern technology has changed how the river is managed, but it has never reduced its importance. Every major Egyptian city continues to depend on the Nile, just as ancient civilizations once did. Walking through Cairo, it quickly becomes apparent how closely the city remains connected to the river. Major roads lead toward the waterfront, bridges constantly carry traffic between different parts of the capital, and many of the city's most desirable neighborhoods developed along the Nile's banks. Even modern residential and commercial districts continue to place tremendous value on riverfront locations, recognizing the unique role the Nile plays in shaping the quality of urban life. The atmosphere becomes especially memorable after sunset. As daytime temperatures begin to fall, the waterfront fills with people enjoying the evening breeze. Families gather for walks, children play in nearby parks, friends meet for dinner, and countless residents simply sit along the river watching boats glide past beneath the illuminated bridges. Despite the energy of a city that never seems to stop moving, the Nile introduces a sense of calm that offers a welcome contrast to the busy streets beyond the waterfront. For thousands of years, the Nile has connected every chapter of Egyptian history. Ancient temples once stood along its shores. Merchant ships carried goods between distant cities. Powerful kingdoms rose beside its waters, and modern Cairo eventually grew into one of the world's largest metropolitan areas. The river has witnessed every stage of that remarkable journey, remaining the one constant that links Egypt's ancient civilization with the vibrant capital that exists today. To understand Cairo is to understand the Nile, because the story of the city and the story of the river have always been inseparable. As the sun begins to set and the intense heat of the day slowly fades, Cairo reveals an entirely different side of its personality. During daylight hours, the city is defined by movement, business, and the constant flow of people making their way through one of the busiest metropolitan areas in the world. As evening arrives, however, the atmosphere begins to change. The streets remain lively, but the pace becomes more relaxed as families, friends, and neighbors step outside to enjoy the cooler temperatures and spend time together. Unlike many large cities where activity gradually slows after the workday ends, Cairo often becomes even more vibrant. Offices close, but restaurants begin filling with customers. Parks welcome evening visitors, and neighborhoods come alive with people gathering outdoors. Families stroll through local streets, children play long after sunset, and cafes remain busy late into the night. The city never feels as though it is preparing to sleep. Instead, it simply shifts into another rhythm that is every bit as energetic as the one that began before sunrise. The city's public squares and major streets become natural gathering places during the evening. Sidewalk cafes fill with regular customers, restaurants welcome large groups of families and friends, and small businesses continue serving local residents well into the night. Many people choose to spend their evenings outdoors simply because the weather becomes much more comfortable after sunset, especially during the warmer months of the year. Historic Cairo takes on an especially memorable atmosphere after dark. As daylight disappears, centuries-old mosques are illuminated with carefully designed lighting that highlights their domes, minarets, and intricate stonework. The narrow streets surrounding these landmarks become quieter than they are during the day, yet they remain full of life as visitors and local residents wander through neighborhoods where history continues to exist as part of everyday life rather than as something preserved behind museum walls. Traditional cafes play an important role in Cairo's evening culture. Many have welcomed customers for decades and have become familiar gathering places for generations of local residents. Friends meet to discuss the events of the day, neighbors exchange news, families relax after dinner, and older patrons spend hours talking over glasses of tea or strong Egyptian coffee. Some cafes feature live music, while others offer a peaceful setting where conversation remains the main attraction. Music is another defining part of Cairo after dark. It drifts from restaurants, wedding celebrations, cultural festivals, neighborhood gatherings, and passing cars, blending with the sounds of conversation and traffic that continue throughout the evening. Depending on the time of year, visitors may come across outdoor performances, cultural events, or public celebrations that bring entire neighborhoods together, adding another layer to the city's already lively atmosphere. Dinner is often the social highlight of the day. Restaurants become especially busy as extended families gather around large tables filled with shared dishes. Meals are rarely rushed, and conversations often continue long after the food has been served. For many people, dinner is not simply the final meal of the day, but an opportunity to reconnect with relatives and friends after work, making it one of the most important daily traditions in Egyptian life. The atmosphere becomes even more remarkable during the holy month of Ramadan. After sunset, once the daily fast comes to an end, the city undergoes an extraordinary transformation. Families gather for iftar, restaurants quickly fill with diners, decorative lanterns illuminate streets and neighborhoods, and public spaces become crowded with people enjoying the evening together. Community organizations and volunteers prepare free meals for those in need, reinforcing the strong sense of generosity and solidarity that characterizes this special time of year. Even well after midnight, Cairo continues to feel very much awake. Although traffic becomes lighter than during the day, many cafes remain open, restaurants continue serving customers, and neighborhood streets stay active with people enjoying the cooler nighttime air. During the hottest months of summer, it is perfectly normal for social life to continue into the early hours of the morning, making the night an important extension of the day rather than its conclusion. Experiencing Cairo after sunset offers a deeper understanding of the city than many famous landmarks ever could. During the day, visitors are often captivated by the scale of the metropolis and the grandeur of its historical monuments. At night, however, the focus shifts toward the people themselves, revealing a city built around family, friendship, hospitality, and community. It is in these evening hours that Cairo feels most personal, reminding every visitor that beyond its extraordinary history lies a living city whose greatest story continues to be written by the millions of people who call it home. No matter how quickly Cairo continues to grow, its traditions remain deeply woven into everyday life. New highways, modern business districts, and expanding residential communities have transformed the city's skyline over the past several decades. Yet many of the customs that define Egyptian society have remained remarkably consistent. Family gatherings, religious celebrations, neighborhood traditions, and everyday acts of hospitality continue to shape daily life, giving Cairo a sense of continuity that connects the present with generations that came before. Among the most significant moments of the year are the country's religious holidays, when the rhythm of the city changes in noticeable ways. The holy month of Ramadan is perhaps the most meaningful of these occasions. Throughout the day, many Muslims fast from sunrise until sunset, and as evening approaches, anticipation gradually builds across the city. Once the call to prayer marks the end of the day's fast, homes, restaurants, cafes, and public spaces immediately come alive. Families gather around tables prepared with traditional meals, neighbors visit one another, and streets become filled with people enjoying one of the most important evenings of the day. Ramadan also highlights one of the strongest values within Egyptian society: generosity. Across Cairo, charitable organizations, local communities, businesses, and volunteers organize free meals for anyone in need. Long communal tables appear in neighborhoods throughout the city, welcoming both residents and travelers to share the evening meal together. These gatherings reflect a spirit of compassion and community that extends well beyond the holiday itself and remains an important part of Egyptian culture throughout the year. When Ramadan comes to an end, the city celebrates Eid al-Fitr, one of the happiest holidays on the Egyptian calendar. Families wear new clothes, children receive gifts and sweets, relatives travel across the country to visit one another, and parks, restaurants, and public spaces become filled with people celebrating together. Similar scenes unfold during Eid al-Adha, another major religious holiday that places special emphasis on family, generosity, and helping those less fortunate. During these celebrations, Cairo feels united by a shared sense of tradition that reaches across generations. Family celebrations hold an equally important place in everyday life. Weddings, engagements, birthdays, and other milestones are rarely quiet occasions. Egyptian weddings are often large community events where relatives, friends, neighbors, and colleagues gather to celebrate together. Music fills the streets, guests dance late into the evening, and entire neighborhoods sometimes become part of the festivities. These celebrations reinforce the importance of family and community, values that continue to define Egyptian society regardless of changing lifestyles. Respect for older generations remains another cornerstone of daily life. Grandparents often play an active role in raising grandchildren. Family decisions are frequently discussed across multiple generations, and younger people are encouraged to value the experience and guidance of their elders. This close relationship between generations helps preserve traditions that might otherwise disappear, allowing customs that have existed for centuries to remain relevant in modern Cairo. What makes the city particularly fascinating is its ability to embrace the future without abandoning its past. Young Egyptians build technology companies, study abroad, work in international industries, and participate in an increasingly global economy. Yet many continue to celebrate traditional holidays, gather regularly with extended family, and maintain customs that have been passed down through generations. Rather than replacing old traditions, modern life has become another chapter in Cairo's ongoing story. For many visitors, a trip to Cairo lasts only a few days. During that time, they explore the pyramids, visit museums, admire historic mosques, and walk through famous markets before continuing to the next destination. Yet those experiences reveal only part of the city. The deeper understanding comes from spending an evening along the Nile, sharing tea in a neighborhood cafe, watching families gather after sunset, wandering through local markets away from the tourist crowds, and observing the ordinary moments that define everyday life for millions of residents. It is through these experiences that Cairo begins to reveal its true identity. It is not simply the capital of ancient Egypt or a city built around world-famous monuments. It is a living, evolving metropolis where thousands of years of history continue to exist alongside ambitious new developments, modern universities, expanding neighborhoods, and one of the youngest populations in the Middle East. Every generation adds another layer to the city without erasing the ones that came before. Perhaps that is what makes Cairo unforgettable. It never asks visitors to choose between the ancient world and the modern one because both exist here at the same time. The pyramids may stand on the horizon as silent reminders of an extraordinary civilization, but the true spirit of Cairo is found in its people, its neighborhoods, its conversations, its traditions, and the ordinary moments that unfold every single day. That is why no single journey can ever fully explain this remarkable city. Every visit reveals something new, and every return offers another opportunity to understand one of the oldest continuously inhabited regions on Earth through the life of one of its most dynamic modern capitals.